afternoon. Today I have with me Miss Hannah Johnson. And Hannah is a wealth strategist, and she partners with individuals, business owners, and their employees to design personalized financial plans. She leverages the power of compound interest, and we all learned about the rule of 72, right? And financial education workshops and explore tax advantages, and how many of us are concerned about taxation. So as a business owner goes into retirement, or let's say you do sell your business and you get this great glob of money, how do you protect that against other taxes that may come down the road and leverage that? So I'm going to be talking to Hannah today specifically about what she does to help the business owner with an exit strategy in mind. Whether you're ready to exit now or you're thinking about it way down the road, you can do this type of planning now, which is far better than if you wait. So Hannah, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing.
Well, what I'm doing is really giving the individuals, and whether they own it as a partnership or individually, options. That's the number one thing. As we all know, we set these beautiful plans for our lives and our businesses. And then, of course, curveballs coming at us, right? And we don't expect to go through things like COVID or major illnesses like heart attack, stroke, cancer, or heaven forbid, we get in a car accident or become disabled in another way. We can't actually do the job in the business that we created. So then what? What happens next? And so that's what I do, is I give people options that can really help protect not only their livelihood and their family side, but also the business side as well.
And that talks very specifically to two of my 5Ds, which are death and disability. And to your point, the death of a business owner is catastrophic in many different ways, but even more so if they don't have a plan in place. And disability has been called the living death, right? So you're still here, but you can't function. You maybe can't run your company. Maybe you aren't set up properly for that either. So we're going to discuss two options, and I love the options today, how to protect yourself from either of those two potential risks.
Yes, perfect. And we never planned on those happening either. No. They happen at the most inappropriate and inopportune times.
Well, to speak to that, my husband was my business partner and he passed away, right? And we thought we had everything pretty well set up. I keep her some life insurance on him and blah, 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 only to find out that there were some other things that fell through the cracks. But thankfully, now, if he had lived, it would have been a different story, because I would have been looking at having to get in-home care and being able to afford that and taking care of him at the same time running the business. So there's a lot of issues. And it also comes down to family members. So if you're the business owner, but a family member gets sick or hurt, then you may necessarily be sidetracked and not be able to run your business the way that you used to. And if you don't have a plan in place, that can hurt you too. So how do your plans help? You can dissect the death from the disability, or talk to them both, help whatever you feel is appropriate.
Well, let's do that just for ease. Let's start with death. Death is never fun. A loss of a partner in a business or a family member is very hard. And when it's both combined, you've got two different entities to look out for. You've got your home life and your business life. And like in your situation, your business partner was also your life partner. So that's very difficult. That's where we've got to have two different things set up in place. And that's where people tend to commingle them. When we've got to remember, just like our money, separation of church and state, right? We've got to have our business account. We've got to have our personal accounts. Same thing here. This is where I recommend individuals, whether they're married to their business partners or not, we have those separate accounts, those separate policies. So of course, life insurance is the easy one to deal with the death, because the individual dies. On the business side, that death benefit goes to pay out the existing spouse if it's in a partnership, or in your situation, your partner was your life partner as well. So then on the business side, I would have recommended having a policy as well, key man, same type of thing, where you had that money to help hire someone to replace the duties that he did within your business without the business collapsing, or worse, having you take over your responsibilities and his, because that's a lot.
So exactly. And to that point, I was talking to an external CFO who had two brothers who were business partners. One died, and the bank called the credit line due immediately.
Oh, yep.
He didn't have the cash flow to pay it off. He's liquidating assets, selling off inventory, which is decimating the business. Simple solution would have been, to your point, to have that key person life insurance in place, allowed him to pay off that credit line, restructure the business, maybe hire another person to do what his brother used to do, and expand, not contract. So
absolutely.
Same thing happened when my husband Joe died. I had a tiny little credit line. Thank God it wasn't a huge one. And I looked at it one day after he died, and it was closed.
Wow.
No notice, nothing. So I go into the bank. I said, "What's wrong with my credit line?" And they said, "Well, we canceled it." I'm going, "Why?" And they said, "Well, he was the signer on the account and he's not here." And I said, "But I own the company and I'm still here." And they did not care. So fast forward, take that to a contractor who has $1 million credit line.
Yes.
And it's all out being used for projects that they're working on currently. And the bank calls that due.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, we hear about that all the time, where a simple life insurance policy, and it could even be a term, right? If your company doesn't have the cash flow yet, I just helped two ladies. There are business partners in a company, and we started out with terms because the company is just not there yet to do anything more permanent. So awesome. Let's protect it with a term, and we can get those living benefits going to the next thing, kind of segueing to with a disability, which is another D in the 5 Ds that kind of hinder a business. Is the disability is we are 78% more likely to suffer a chronic illness, critical illness, or a disability that will take us out of the business from doing our duties than we are from death.
Yeah, exactly. And to that point, I had an HVAC guy who owned an HVAC company fall off his own roof, break both his legs, multiple surgeries, PT, all of that, and he almost lost the company. And he never recovered to where it was before. And a simple policy that covered for disability that could have provided a cash flow for him and protection would have been invaluable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially with partnerships, and especially too when you're by yourself.
Yeah.
When you're by yourself and it's only you, like right now, it's only you. For me right now, it's only me that can do what I can do in my business. So heck yes, I have a very large policy on myself, because then if something happens to me and I can't type, I can't walk, I can't meet with people, I can't talk, I can't function, I'm pulling in that policy. And I'm going to pay someone to keep my business running. That way, when I'm better, right, I have a business to go back to. I'm not starting from ground zero. I'm not starting from negative, right? My business is positive now. I've worked very hard to get it there.
And at least you're keeping communication with people, because if you're unable to communicate because you're sick or you're hurt, then you're going to lose that, like you said, momentum. And that's very, very hard to go to zero and then pull back up to 65 miles an hour, right?
Absolutely. It takes time.
Yeah, solopreneurs are especially at risk, and they don't think about that because it's only them, right?
Yes.
You are the business. So really important. So talk about the tax advantages, Hannah. Tell us about that.
So tax advantages can be done several different ways. There are tax deferred accounts, and there's also tax-free accounts. And depending on your unique situation really tells us which way we go. However, I tend to lean towards the tax-free way. Are we going to save money on taxes now? No. However, with these tax-free accounts, we pay taxes on the money now. We put it in a vehicle that grows tax-free, and then we never have to worry about paying taxes on the growth of that money again. It's a very unique product, and not very many people have heard of it. And there are other products other than a Roth. I know when I start talking about these tax-free options, people are like, "Oh yeah, that's a Roth." And I'm like, that's one, yes, but we're capped in that one, and it changes, and we're still not fully in control of that account.
Yeah,
someone else's.
and you
Yes,
can't pull money out without penalties until you're
exactly.
half and blah, blah, blah. So having something that is more liquid along the way,
Yes.
right? That's accessible for opportunities too. And I've heard of using these types of products for investment purposes, right?
Yes.
So let's just say you are a business owner and you have one of these policies and you've got some availability built up in the policy and you have a business opportunity that comes down the pike. Instead of borrowing from a bank or borrowing somewhere else or using your cash flow, which can also decimate the business, you have access to that, and you can structure it as a little loan and pay yourself back with interest instead of paying somebody else, right?
Absolutely, 100%. It's that liquidity that is super important to business owners and entrepreneurs. We have to have that easy access to cash. Not all of us have assets. And I have one lady that did get a loan from the bank, an SBA loan, and they wanted her to put them on her house so that if she defaulted on the loan, they would get her house.
Want collateral.
I mean, that's, yes, that is, your home is not something to put collateral up against for your business.
Yeah.
There's a clear line that you do not cross in those situations. And this type of policy helps you make sure that that clear line stays intact. And if something does happen to where you can't pay on that loan, you're going to be fine.
And that's that commingling you're talking about. Separate
Yes.
of church and state, as you put it.
Yes.
So the business is the business and your personal life is your personal life. And you don't want that to affect the other, if at all possible, to avoid.
Exactly.
That. I was talking to a banker this morning, and
okay.
He's a commercial banker, loans lots of money to businesses. I said, is your bank requiring life insurance as collateral? He goes, no, we're not.
Mm.
And I said, hey, when I started in this business many years ago, working with bankers, if a doctor or a dentist or a business owner went and got a business loan, they had to have life insurance on that because, number one, they're protecting the loan, right? So
Yes.
if they die, the loan is paid off. Number two, they're protecting their customer. They're doing them a favor, making sure that their financial security is intact. And I couldn't believe that they weren't requiring that. I said, you get me up there to talk to all your banker boys and girls, and I'll tell them, it's just critical.
Yes, and it's so easy to obtain. Now, not everyone can qualify for life insurance, and that's the hurdle. However, most people are. Not just because one company declines you doesn't mean all of them will. There's a ton of different companies that have their own little underwriting restrictions. I've actually had clients that have been declined by several companies, and I was able to get them coverage. Nice. You've just got to know which companies to go to and what information to properly give them and paint the picture of this person's health, right? That's one of our jobs, is to help paint that picture for them, because they're just seeing what they see on paper.
Yep.
Which stinks.
Another really good point, Hannah. The best time to get life insurance is when you're young and you're healthy. And you can get, like you said, you can get a term policy, which you can change over to living benefits later on down the road. But if you get it while you're younger and you have your health, more importantly, it's going to guarantee that to a degree. At least you have it. So I highly recommend get it when they're young. Even if they don't need it right then, it doesn't hurt to have it down the road, and you can always retract it, but you can't always expand it.
Exactly. And let's clarify what living benefits are, because I know that can be a confusing term as well. So living benefits historically have been, I can actually pull money out of this account when I get older, or if I need to. That is a form of what some companies call living benefits. The living benefits I'm referring to are chronic, critical, and terminal illnesses, and those do come on term policies as well. So you can really get those. They're also called accelerated benefits, Ryder. And some companies do charge extra for them, and some companies do not. So you definitely want to go to the company that doesn't charge any extra, because let's try to keep more money in your pocket. That's the whole point. But also, when you're in that situation, when you're wanting to get a life insurance policy to use as collateral, not all companies say, let's do a life insurance policy. But however, if you suggest it, usually they will go for it. It really depends on the institution you're getting the loan from. But of course, I always recommend don't worry about that. Let's set you up for success when you're young and healthy so that if you decide to open up a business of your own and you need a loan, you can just pull it out of a permanent policy that has that built up in there.
Right.
So the living benefits, those three categories that I gave you, chronic, terminal, and critical, they encompass a lot of different things. So when we're talking about disability, it's not just the chronic situation, which is 2 of the 6 means of daily living. That it considers the terminal diagnosis as well as the critical diagnosis. Because sometimes when you have a heart attack, stroke, or cancer, you can't come back to work.
Right. Right.
Well, in a traditional death only policy, if you're in a partnership with someone and they suffer one of those and they physically can't come back to work, well, they didn't die. So what now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we've got to think of all factors. And nowadays, it's usually sicknesses and illnesses and injuries that are taking us out of being productive in life versus just death.
Yeah.
So we've got to plan for those additional things too. So in a critical situation, the heart attack, stroke, cancer, it also includes organ transplant, blindness, loss of a limb. There's a whole list of about 16 or 17 different factors that can encompass a critical illness. So if you look at a policy and they're charging you or they don't have the full list of 16 or 17, there might be a better option out there for you. You want to be as covered as much as possible in those kind of situations.
Yeah. So you, as the expert, look at the whole picture, the client situation, their health situation, and you actually shop it. So you basically can go to the marketplace and find what's best.
Yes,
awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So it's not a cookie cutter where one size fits all.
It's not. It's the devil's in the details, as with anything else. The devil's in the details. So we've got to look at those details and make sure they fit you and what you're looking for.
Right. Well, that's really good information. What else were you talking about with the retirement benefits? How can they get tax-free retirement benefits out of this? Because I hear business owners all the time go, my business is my retirement plan. And of course, as an exit planner, I look at them saying, what does that look like? And they don't have a clue because they don't have a clue how much the business is worth, et cetera. And it doesn't matter if they do sell the business successfully down the road. This is a tax-free benefit that they can set up earlier on. And again, to hedge against the contingency that maybe they can't sell their business or maybe one of these other things happens. So how does that work for them?
So how it works is they make a monthly contribution into a tax-free retirement plan. They let it grow all their working years. And then when they're ready to flip that switch on and pay themselves, they can. What that amount looks like depends on how much you put in through your working careers. It sounds very similar to a 401k, a Roth IRA. The only difference is you have control of it. There's no penalties if you need to dip into it early. There's no tax on the growth, which can happen in a 401k. Of course, 401k is tax deferred, but that tax-free retirement makes it so what you pay taxes on the money today, where the taxes are what we know what they are. And taxes are usually going up, not down.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who says taxes are going to go down.
Exactly. Right. We all expect them to go up because historically they do go up.
Right.
And I know in times of war, we've been in the 90% tax bracket before. Has it gone down afterwards? Yes. But those were times of war.
Right.
We don't know if we're going to be in war when I want to retire. So I'm going to make sure that it doesn't matter. When my money comes out, when I'm getting paid, when I'm retired, I don't have to worry about taxes because I grew my retirement in a tax-free account.
Right. Right, which is super valuable. And again, to your point, the earlier you start this, time is on your side. If you wait longer, you can still have some of the benefits, but you're still going to be deleting and depleting what would have been opportunity for you when you're younger. So I highly encourage younger folks to look at that. So business owners need to do a lot of planning in their business. They need to protect that business. They also need to protect themselves and their families. And in the big picture of things, their employees and their families.
Yes.
So this extends well beyond the business owner, right?
Absolutely. It does extend into the employees as well. So many employers are not wanting to sign up for the 401ks because of the high cost, the high fees, the setup charges, all that. That affects the bottom line.
Yeah, the limit,
Yes.
like you said. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And the limitations. So they're bringing in these tax-free retirement accounts for their employees. There's way less paperwork, no fees to the employer. They can contribute or they don't have to contribute. And it doesn't matter if they're a W-2 or a 1099.
Nice.
Either one of those situations, they can have the tax-free retirement account. So it completely eliminates all the restrictions and rules and rigidity of what we're allowed to do and gives us freedom of what we want to do with our money. Imagine that.
Yeah. Well, to your point, it doesn't have the strict rules that a 401k or another type of qualified retirement plan would have on contributions and how much you can put in. You really have flexibility, and it can be very much customized. Isn't there a provision that if something were to happen to them, they were permanently disabled, that it would self-complete? They can add that in there too?
There is a provision on that, absolutely. But typically in those situations, they might want to actually start using the living benefits that are attached to that,
Right.
or start using the income. Because again, if they're not working,
Right, exactly.
they need money. So it really does give you a lot of options. And if you have a significant other that can continue to pay the bills while you're disabled,
Yeah.
great. You can either let it sit there and continue to grow and don't touch it, you embracing compound interest, or you can use it if you need to. The biggest thing is it gives you options without that threat of additional fees and taxes and penalties and all that, because that's what restricts people with their options.
Great. Well, that's been really helpful, Hannah. Is there anything else that you want the people to know about this type of planning? Or we're going to put your contact information down. You can give them a little bit of background now on how to reach you.
Absolutely. That would be great. I do the Money 101 workshops where we talk about how money really works. We talk about compound interest. Not everyone learned that in school or from their parents. No one learned about the rule of 72, because I get that question a lot. Well, I don't know how much I need. I just know I want $2 million by the time I retire. I have no idea how much I need to put in now to make sure I get there. Mm-hmm. Well, we use the rule of 72 to reverse engineer that. Nice. And we put it in accounts that embrace compound interest. If we don't understand what those principles are, we don't know how to use them. Yep. So that's the number one step.
Yeah, that's shooting in the dark, isn't it? When you don't understand.
Absolutely.
And you don't have somebody to guide you through it like you to help answer those questions and make sure that you do have goals. And that's really what we're all about in the exit planning space too, is to have strategic plans. And these plans affect a lot of different areas of your life, not just your business life, but again, your personal life. So good planning is good strategy.
Absolutely. What is that saying? If you're not planning to succeed, you're planning to fail.
Yeah.
You're planning something, either if you do nothing or do something. So let's do something and make sure we're successful in where we want to go.
Absolutely. In my 5 Ds in my webinar, I say crisis planning is no planning. When the crisis hits, it's too late to do the planning. And then you have to deal with the crisis and do the best you can, when you could have done a lot better if you had some things in place, right?
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for your insight and your input. And we'll also make sure that they know when your 101 classes. So if they want to jump and take advantage of that, we'll go ahead and post that as well. And thank you today for being here and explaining a lot of this for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.